Hello everyone, welcome to the Peaceful Palette Art Lesson Series. Today we'll be using this advanced colored pencil 20-piece set from Luminance, or the Luminance set from Crayon Dash, as we draw a highly detailed eye. These are the pencils, aren't they just beautiful? They are about $50 or so for that set, and if you think that colored pencils might be something you enjoy, I highly encourage you to get them if you're able to. The quality is so much better than basic colored pencils. Here's a sampling of the ones that I think we'll be using in this portrait. And we'll be starting off with this pencil number 713. It's sort of a minty green, kind of a seafoam color. So I'm using light pressure as I begin here. This drawing sketch is from a previous lesson when we used a light board, and I went over and showed you how to get a highly detailed drawing made up for colored pencil if you choose to do that. Another option, if you want to just draw an eye that is generally about this shape, and you can follow along, adding the details as close as possible. Another option is you can just watch this video and see the reference photo in comparison to which colors I choose to do in which order. My hope for this lesson is that you will see what colored pencils can do, how we can build them up layer after layer and get these beautiful saturated drawings. Most of us think of colored pencils as what we used in school, as just a very basic, rudimentary sort of art tool, but they are so much more than that, and that is my hope. In the previous video, I showed you what you can do with a 12-piece Crayola colored pencil set, and we drew an eye in that lesson as well. This lesson is going to take all of that a step further. I have broken this lesson up into 4 different parts. So today you'll get this video and part B of this first part where we do the iris, the pupil, and the white of the eye. Next week you'll be getting 2 more videos where we do part of the upper lid and the upper lashes. So I'm just using an eraser here to, now that I'm starting to lay out some of the color, I can erase a little bit of where I've sketched in here to make sure it doesn't show through in the final drawing. So why I chose this eye to draw also is I loved the uniqueness. She has these beautiful blues and greens, amber, browns, all within her eye color. So this, I believe, is color 140 from the kit. And then this unique way that her eyelashes are shadowed across the iris of her eye, made just for a unique and fun drawing experience. When you are drawing this back, you're welcome to leave those shadows out if you prefer. This is color 649. It's a very deep blue color. Almost black, really. But it'll work great if we start to fill in where we want shading and the darkest parts of the iris. What my hope is for this lesson and all of the art lessons I'm doing is for people who already love art to learn more and just have a chance to expand what they know, practice, do it alongside me and anyone else who is here, as well as people who think art is not for them. I would challenge that everybody needs some sort of creative outlet, whether it's art, drawing, painting, music. It is so vital to balancing ourselves out, that we don't just work in the intellectual side of our brains, that we really need to build these neurological pathways within our brains that really anchor us to this creative way of being. And even for people that don't find themselves particularly patient people, it is an exercise that will help you become more of a patient person. In a world where we are constantly shown things at multiple frames per second, switching views continuously on television shows and movies, ads on our phones, things like that, to just slow down and spend time in a focused way can be life-changing. So that is part of also what I'm hoping more and more people will start to experience. I really believe that art can be for everyone, regardless of so many of the factors that we use to divide us in life. None of that should apply in this space that I'm creating. So what I'm doing is constantly looking back at the reference photo, looking at my drawing, starting to notice these deeper colors. Is there anywhere I've missed? What parts match this really deep blue that I have in my hand? I use firm pressure on the darker shadow areas, and then the parts where I know I'm going to continue to build up more and more color, I go a little bit lighter with my pressure. Sometimes on the edge of the iris there, if it matches what the reference photo shows, I'll go in and draw a line that kind of edges that circle, so I'm not quite so close to just accidentally going out of the boundary there. So we really don't want to go with dark blue and actually accidentally smear into the white of the eye. But it's a pretty dark color to try to overcome. So here we are coming in with color 212. It's a middle of the road green color. What this will help do is just start to fill in that base of that green in the eye, where the green and the blue mix. And I'm using it also to fill in the shadowed area, just to bring in a little bit more of a saturated, well-rounded shadow color. So I'm using very light pressure there to make sure that I leave those last shadows showing, and there's contrast between the color of the eye and those shadows. So now I've come in with a yellow, number 542. I'm filling in just any of those areas where we start to have that amber color come in, the golden specks in the hazel parts of the eye. This is one of my favorite colors to use. It's number 44 and it's terracotta. So I'm using that to start to show part of the pieces of brown and the brown specks that are within the eye. Again, just looking at the reference photo, really trying to line up where that color shows. It's all about just getting comfortable how you hold your pencil, seeing how colors lay together. Really keep a lighthearted sense of adventure during these lessons. It's learning, it's growing, it's a time for play, and just remember that. We don't want to beat ourselves up or start to criticize or think there's no way we can do this, because that's exactly why I wanted to show you in real time the order of the colors, each pencil stroke, because you absolutely can do this. At any point, if you need to, pause the video, take a little extra time, lay things out how you want. All of those approaches are perfect, and you need to figure out what works for you that makes this process enjoyable. The only one I say that's worth pushing through is if you're an impatient person, and it's just, I really encourage you to try to stick with it and build up. Those patients will come, and it will serve you so much better in your entire life. What I love too about this process is it's all about trusting the process. When you look at the eye right now, it's easy to say, well, that is not going to turn into anything. The colors aren't deep enough. It looks like, why are there stripes in it? It's like a zebra with stripes. But I promise you, we just keep going forward step by step, and it starts to come together. I don't think I showed this pencil, but I believe I'm using number 575 right here with light pressure. It's a little bit deeper of a brown color. And then this one is number 745, Warm Earth. And we can use this to start to add some warmth to the white of the eye. When you look at the reference photo, you can see how much darker that outer white triangle is than even the inner one. Keeping in mind that the eyeball is round. Part of how we shade that is going to help imply that and just make it even more clear to the viewer. So coming in again and adding a little bit more depth. When you look at the reference photo there, you can see there's a bit of a shadow line between the bottom of the iris and where the bottom lid meets the eyeball, as well as a ring of darker eye color around the edge of the iris on all sides. So here we're using number 639. It's the darkest color in this set. I often refer to it to black, but it's technically more of a well, we'll just call it black. And I'm using medium to firm pressure here to fill in this pupil. If you look at the reference photo, you can see that there's an area of the pupil that's solid black, and then there's an area where it starts to blur almost in a starburst motion into the colored parts of the iris. So coming in here and just really accentuating that shadow line we just talked about. Our goal in doing this iris, pupil, and eyeball is to make sure that it's saturated enough in color that it'll hold up once we come in and do the skin. Right now it's still too light. There's too much white showing through. Here we're coming in with number 580, a deep red. I'm doing this very light. So keep in mind too that red is the opposite of green. So anywhere there is green, when you use the opposite color to help create a shadow feeling, that can be very helpful. As well as on the eyeball, coming in and doing a little bit there with the kind of the pinkish tones. We're matching up these shadows with the shadows that are shown in the iris. Using very light pressure. So now coming out and starting to, for the first time, add a little bit of detail into the tear duct area. I'll talk about it more in the next lessons, but white is very often, when you see white in art, it's actual colors implying white. There's very few times where it's actually white that you see that shows white. So we can trick our eyes into knowing, we know that this is the white of the eye. But if we're consistent in how we shade it, we can do it with a few other colors so that we can still leave a highlighted area of the eye that is more of the paper color. So I'm coming back in with number 575, I believe that was. Doing a little bit more of the shadowing, really light pressure. So in the next video, we're going to continue here and we're going to really bring in that saturation in the eye. I'm going to show you a couple of hacks on how to make those colors just pop. Here we're going to work that pupil and the shadowing a little bit outward. What we're constantly doing as well is once we start filling in the color on that eye, we have to make sure that those shadows and contrast are darker than what we have there. So sometimes we think that we've gone dark enough and then we have to come back in and just add a little bit more to make sure they still stand out. So coming back in with that seafoam greenish color, number 713. And building up the green tints back into the bluish parts. And the golden, and then the green parts. So we'll stop part 1 here, and you can go ahead and click to watch part 2 right now. Thanks for being here.